Okay, so a little video about me and my progress, right? So I've been working on a project which is an electrolysis project. So I was trying to create hydrogen. Now the problem is that my electrolysis machine leaks. So I've tried to solve all of the leaks, but there's one hose plug or whatever you call it that still leaks. And I can't for the life of me fix it because I tried Teflon tape around the plug and it still leaks. I tried O-rings, but the hose connector plug, hose tube connector thing won't um, attach properly to the O-ring to seal with an O-ring. So I can put an O-ring around it, but it'll just um, you know, fall around the key part where you hold it with the wrench, whatever key wrench thing. Words. Anyway, it still leaks. So I haven't been able to test my big hydrogen theory that I wanted to have proof for before I made it to the public. I'm really frustrated with that, so I just can't seem to continue with what I was doing. I don't generally give up. This is really annoying. I'm not giving. Point is, it's leaking, and I can't test it, and I wanted to say something about hydrogen. So what they're currently doing with hydrogen is they're selling on the market hydrogen, and they say hydrogen has a certain price, and we put it on the market, and we sell stock, hydrogen stock, and you can buy hydrogen stock on the exchange, right? You can go and invest in that, and you can earn money that way. Now, what happens is they've made efforts to engineer and design all kinds of hydrogen machines, mostly electrolysis machines, of two variants, mainly PEM cells and normal alkaline electrolysis cells. Now, the PEM cells work with a carbon separator in the middle, and they use pure water, and they can work with that pure water. I don't know exactly if I'm hearing a no for the separator being carbon. I don't know, don't care. It's a PEM cell. Okay, it uses pure water and it makes hydrogen and in electrolysis, and it creates lots of that and very purely. So they've separated the oxygen from the hydrogen and create very pure hydrogen. Now the problem is at 2.5 volt. No, at 1.5 volt. Sorry, at 1.5 volt, a electrolysis cell with water generates CO2 if there is carbon. With any quantity of carbon in the cell, and PEM cells all have carbon, with any quantity of carbon in the cells, an electrolysis cell is forced to generate CO2, 1 unit of CO2 per unit of hydrogen, to work beyond 1.5 or 1.45 volt or 1.5 volt. I'm going to go with 1.5 volt. It goes from that point onwards, it's carbon. The other equation is the hydrogen-oxygen equation, which is from 1.23 volts. But 1.5 volts, and I'm guaranteeing you they're above that 1.5 volt. I don't know how much they're above by 1.5 volt. So people with PEM cells, could you please inform me about one thing? What voltage is one cell on with you guys? Or do you just use the series as well? Because if a cell is in series with other cells, and your voltage is like 12 cells over all cells, then an individual cell could be anywhere between 0 and 12 volts. So the resistances between all the 12 cells that make up the 12 volts can be such that one cell is more resistance than another cell, and it consumes most of the voltage. So one cell could consume more than the 1.5 volt, which triggers the generation of CO2 from the carbon content in the cell, right? So one is, does PEM cells consume the separator, which is carbon, correct? Is it carbon? And if it's carbon, does it consume the separator? 2 is, how much CO2 versus how much oxygen is generated in one of these carbon-rich hydrogen cells? And is it not true that at least 50% or not of the quantity of oxygen that comes out is in the form of CO2? Those are my questions to the PEM cell people. And then I'd like to tell you that the generation of hydrogen with the introduction of CO2 at 1.5 volt or above usage per cell, which for series cells would be a possibility, a percentage chance of one of the cells coming above the 1.5 volt region, which is an extreme high likelihood. And so thus with a series set cell, it would be a percentage of the cell's power going into CO2 generation as opposed to the full power of the cell going into CO2 generation, which means not the full quantity of CO2 is generated, but a partial quantity of CO2. The rest will still be the normal equation of hydrogen and oxygen. However, then we still have the generation of CO2 to account for, which means we're useless, because what are we going to do with the CO2? Then, the right way to do it is to go completely CO2 free, which means there is zero quantity of carbon in the entire cell system. There's no carbon in the cells. There's no carbon in the plates that are supposed to carry current. Nothing that touches current or water with some current in it has carbon in it. That's the thing we want. Why? Because then we don't have any carbon equation, and we don't have to worry about going above the 1.5 volt, which for efficiency's sake, for efficiency of the cell, we might want to go a little bit above the 1.5 volt per cell, just for the efficiency. Shit, food ready. I'll continue this later. So voltage 1.4 volt would be ideal to never generate any CO2, and the efficiency of the cell is possibly likely higher with lower voltage. So people going with 12 volt for per cell, or people going with 100 or 120 volt per cell, look, you're generating a cooking set of water cooking set, and you're cooking the water you're processing, which is, the efficiency of that is like very low percentile efficiency. The efficiency is gained by having a low voltage per cell, not a high voltage per cell. So if you want efficiency in hydrogen generation, you need the voltage to be as low as possible, as close as possible to the 1.23 volt, 1.229 volt. Okay, as close as possible to the 1.229 volt. We also need a little bit of heat, extra heat energy, as I understand it, but as close as possible to 1.225 volt, 229 volt. Come on. So as close as possible to that value is where we wanna go, because that's your 100% efficiency. The rest is lower. The more you cook the water, the lower the efficiency. So cooking water just means you create water vapor in addition to the hydrogen. We don't want that. Okay, end of the video.